Next curve.
All right. Hey, well, good to see you again, Rob.
What is going
I
on?
have no idea. Okay, so to everyone who's joining and watching this, we apologize because this has been nothing short of a mess. It's been
Yeah.
kind of a disaster logistically because we're using this thing called streaming. What's it called? Streaming
StreamYard,
hard. Yeah, and
which
it
lots of people use and love,
use, and it
but
scheduled our thing at the wrong time. So sorry about that.
I don't even know what to think. So how do we know if this is the right one? Are we in the Matrix?
I think so.
Yeah. I was about to say, so I'm looking if I should be able on my phone be able to go to the actual page where it's broadcasting live, right?
Yeah.
And I should just see us on there. I was never able to do that because we did have someone message saying, yeah, we saw part of your deal when you were talking about AARP and then you guys dropped. And that was a bummer. And I'm like, oh boy, okay.
Really? Mm.
So I'm wondering, where is the source? Where is the absolute? How do I find that without just looking at references or whatever thingies, about
Yeah.
the fact that we were having this thing?
Yeah.
And if anyone's watching, they're probably thinking, who are these dolts who don't know
Yeah.
what's going on
Yeah.
with their own
Well,
technology?
hey, we're giving it a shot.
We're going to give it a shot. We're going to
shot.
try. We're giving it a try.
And we'll improve later once we figure out
can
how
only
all
get
this stuff
better.
really works.
We can only go up from here, right?
Well, yeah, hopefully.
Hopefully. Well, phew, could it get any worse?
I think that we learn and we adapt.
Right.
So,
Oh,
yes.
There's a picture from your buddy Jerry Paradise.
Ooh, nice.
With some cool. Which one is this? Is it X1 Carbon New York Times Best Business Laptop? Wow. Okay.
Yeah, easily.
You got to play with that. Wait, that's a big thing you did at CES. Was you hung out with your Lenovo friends? They took over a whole restaurant for the event.
Yes.
In the Venetian.
Yeah. I think they had the best setup, and they had demo stations that were really cool. They had, one of the devices that they had that I great. One of the device, wonderful. Geez, that's a horrible picture. Yeah, those guys at Acceleration Economy sometimes put up the worst pictures. But yeah, okay. So what are we going to talk about? All right. So Rob and
I don't know.
Yeah. So by the way,
I don't even.
Yeah. So Rob and I, we've been doing these CES 2023 recaps, and this is our first back-to-back one. And so we're going to see if we can previous recaps that we've done. But there's been a lot of folks who've been very interested in some of our takes. And in most occasions, we've only gotten through a few of them. And so we wanted to take this opportunity. I know, I love that. Sorry, Ron. We love Ron, by the way. We love Ron. He's our favorite guy.
Yeah, we love you, Ron. Much love.
Yeah, I mean,
these for closers, Ron.
Yeah, and apparently he didn't want to be annoyed by us. So
can you imagine if you were just scrolling through kind of the beginning of your weekend and you're on LinkedIn? Why, I don't know. And then all of a sudden, blah, this thing just jumps on your face and it's live video of these two characters. And it's like, and they're drinking wine and like, what is this? Is this Facebook or am I on TikTok?
Well, he was going to have a glass of wine and he didn't want to be annoyed by a bunch of tech nonsense by people who scheduled CES belated, by the way, CES 2023 recap, like at the verge of the weekend. It's probably not what he wanted. So, but I want to say we love you, man, and we apologize. We will try not to be BSing people. That's not what Rob and I do. We're just
so like we talked about in our previous episode just minutes ago. One of them was we were talking about the metaverse and this really ultra high-end dinner I got to go to I didn't get to show you some of the swag I got.
Oh my!
The marketing swag that you walk away with from a particular event or a booth or a stand or whatever tells you a lot about the dinero and what's going on with the marketing of that organization. So let me just show you here.
So how ridiculous was it?
It was over the top, dude. I got
is it almost as ridiculous as the connectivity issues that we have here?
Almost.
Oh, wow.
A book, the unicorn within.
Yo,
Look at this. I got two of these, actually. I got 2 of these books. I'll bring one to you in San Diego. I got, where are they? Oh, wait. International Chargers from Autonomous.
Yeah. But you know who invents that? That's IBM. That's Universal Adapter. Yeah.
It is a universal adapter. Every country, everything. You just like, yeah. So there's that.
It's hardware middleware. Yeah.
How many events have you been to where you walked out with not 1 but 2 tablets? What? Are you kidding me?
Ridiculous.
Look at this.
Amazing.
Did you know that TCL made Android tablets with a little connector keyboard? There you go. I got 2 of them. Swag. I had a nice dinner. So
yeah.
And I got 3 Apple tags. So I'll track my luggage as it gets lost somewhere. Hey, if there's only one thing you take away from this conversation from your Uncle Rob here, never check luggage ever.
Why is that?
That's the best wisdom I can give you. When you're like us, traveling internationally all over the place, never ever check. You should be able to find a way, even if you're gone for 2 weeks, to find a way to get all that stuff in your rollerboard, and or your backpack. And some places, some hotels will let you do some kind of laundry if you need to for longer stays or whatever. But you know what happens when you check? You lose. Yeah. That's what happens. You're delayed, you lose, or even in the best of circumstances, you're waiting down at the carousel for your luggage.
Yeah.
I haven't done that in 1,000 years. So anyway, never check.
No.
If you don't check, you don't have problems. You walk off that plane and you go flying through customs. Okay, maybe you're not flying through customs, but
it depends on where you are.
Depends on where you are. If global entry doesn't work everywhere, does it?
Stuck in Copenhagen.
I love the Copenhagen airport.
It is, it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
It's beautiful. But, how many airports look like that beautiful teak wood floors everywhere, and it's just really very gorgeous.
Scandinavian style going on. So what we're going to do in this episode is try to go through some of our key takes from CES 2023, because rarely have we had the occasion thus far to actually go through all the key takeaways and highlights that we thought were really cool from CES. So let's see, where do we start? So let's get the first one out of the way. One of the things, people, a lot of Korean companies, startups, tons of them, very innovative. They're doing some crazy stuff, and they got no love for it by the CTA. Thought that was kind of lame. Okay, so that's the first key takeaway. And so the props to all the South Korean companies that showed up and represented, and also came to the table with some crazy, beautiful products, well thought out software, all the whole 9 yards. So props to you guys. And Samsung, Galaxy Unpacked, good stuff. All right, we got that out of the way.
I'm so glad we got that out of the way.
Yeah.
It's important though.
The next thing, let's talk about.
I just posted my key takeaway for life right there.
Never check luggage. That's
really, there it is.
Very excellent advice.
Yeah. So anyway, sorry about that. Sorry. We'll move on back to the show. Yes. As we talked about in our last episode, age tech is a sector you can go after.
I would agree, big time.
Yeah, yeah.
So let's
AARP.
let's put a spin on that, because you know the other thing is that as you start to look at age tech, you look at our elderly care. A lot of like what you were saying, you're trying to do monitoring. You're trying to help the elderly stay in place or stay at their homes and have that become more of a managed monitored situation in case there's incidents and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
you know, you know, do a little some stuff that I thought was really cool that should complement a lot of what you share, which we didn't share on the first go at this whatever LinkedIn Live thing.
Whatever that thing was. Is there a way to just go directly LinkedIn Live, or do you always have to do it through StreamYard or some other third-party thing?
I don't know. We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out.
I mean, this platform, what is it?
StreamYard.
StreamYard is pretty cool, but the performance isn't all that great.
Because people have used StreamYard because it can blast to multiple places at the same time live, that's a cool feature, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
You know, but yes, we're having hiccups. Don't tell Leonard the problems that we're having are 100% because of his network and his computer. Don't let him know that. He'll feel bad about it. He's going to go crazy this weekend and rip apart everything, buy all new gear, come back next week and go, I got it figured out. Soylent Green is people. Yeah. So, you know, who knows? Maybe you need one of these. I don't know.
Maybe.
I do remember the IBM ads during the .com era where the universal configurator thingy adapter.
It's still highly relevant, more than anybody knows, or if they know, wants to admit. So, but yeah, dude, come on, tell me about age tech.
Age tech. Okay, you probably said a whole bunch of stuff while you were frozen the last time, but basically you were talking about we've got people who are in the AARP range. That means over 50. I don't know if that means they're old. I thought they weren't old until they were 65 or 75 or whatever.
Yeah.
And if any of you guys happen to see the movie Midsummer, well, if you know what I'm talking about, if you saw that, when it comes to a certain age and you just have to jump off a cliff, you know what I'm talking about. It's no bueno.
Yeah.
So age, all this stuff, how do people want to age in place is a big thing. They want to stay at home. They don't want to go live at a, as we would say, an old folks home or assisted care, or sometimes they transition. You start off on little bit of care, and then on the same complex, you can move into a whole lot of care. You probably drive around and you see these neighborhoods, active 55 plus neighborhoods. Do you see that? I see that, especially around the greater Phoenix, Arizona area. I see a lot of that there. And so there's this notion of active seniors. Leonard, what is the opposite of active seniors? I notice these places all say active seniors. Is the other kind like drooling seniors, maybe? Or is that? I don't know. I don't know. But anyway, how can we use IoT age tech? So I'm going to actually investigate this more deeply, because maybe we'll do a whole show on age tech and go really deep, because there were lots of startups there on display. It was one of the bigger booths there at the Venetian, actually. And they did sessions there. They had their own stage and they had people talking about it. And there's so much to know. We are all going to be there one day. So don't laugh. I know you're giggling. You're thinking, who cares? Well, life goes by faster than you think, especially if you have kids. When you have kids, things speed up even faster.
Yeah.
And so think about it. So how can we all stay forever young and live in our own place and all that stuff? I think IoT sensors plays a role. Motion sensors, cameras, things to help you. You know, I often will see, I see the ads on TV from time to time on different channels, like for tunnel to towers, all these different things where they build homes for veterans who come back from, you know, obviously we've been over in the Middle East and Afghanistan for the last 20 years. and come back, maybe their legs are gone or all kinds of stuff, and they build these assistive kind of homes so that they can live a full life, you know. And so maybe things are lower. There's all kinds of things to help you get around. There's a lot of cool tech there, and I think there's a lot of good tech for us to mine from what they're doing for veterans who are in, you know, who came back not whole, but they want to live whole. I think a lot of that same stuff can be used for seniors. You see it all around you little by little when you check into a hotel and they give you the hotel where the bathroom's a little different, has bars on the walls or in the shower, things like that. Anyway, Leonard and I are going to start an age tech startup. He doesn't know this yet, and we're gonna figure it out on Monday night at the Del Coronado, and it's going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome, and we're going to target Arizona and Florida.
Well, you know, yeah, I mean, Japan. I mean, like you were in the previous episode, there's all these countries that are, you know, looking at a aging population, and so yeah, it's a huge market. But the other thing I think is really important is we start to see these types of solutions come to market and find a market. You know, privacy is obviously or you know, sending what you would consider personal aspects of your life into the interwebs, or, you know, aka the cloud. And so it was really cool to go to Eureka Park. So Eureka Park is where they have all the startups. Rob, you and I spent a lot of time there.
Yeah.
And they have a lot of really cool companies down there. One of the companies I bumped into, and they're gonna love me forever because I keep plugging them. And it's not because this is promotional. It's just they were thoughtful. And I would say responsible in the way that they designed their solution. So they leveraged, you know, NVIDIA's. Oh geez, I forgot the name of what the thing is called. How can I do it? You know what? I got to cut myself off here. Anyways, they used
Jetson.
Jetson. There you go. Thank you. You know, it's the damn smartphones. I've lost my memory because everything that I know is on my smartphone. But they use that to basically localize the ML algorithm, the computer vision algorithm that detects your posture. And so if they sense that something has happened that might be indicative of an incident, right? Like a fall or something.
Yeah.
Like that. It'll just send the alert. Nothing else.
Yeah.
All the intelligence is on device. And so this is what we've been calling like the privacy first architecture's, you know, solution design. And so, because, you know, I think everyone is under this impression, right? We've been indoctrinated to thinking that, oh, we need to collect all the customers' data, and in order to have a relationship with the customer, we need to know their life, right?
Yeah, right.
Not being conscious of the fact that and infringing on people's privacy. So there are these architectures that are now possible that can 100%, you know, be mindful and protective of one's privacy. So I thought that was really cool. I
agree. That is cool. That's very cool. I like that.
You're thinking about stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
AI to you know, protect privacy and minimize what you send up to the cloud. So at the end of the day, it's kind of a sad story for cloud, because that means that most of the processing happens locally on device, and then very little. I mean, the only thing you send up there is a trigger, and then you have a managed dashboard or whatever. But
yeah, speaking of being triggered, I noticed in their previous session on CES, you talked about how the fact that you're talking about NVIDIA right now and stuff, how Intel was nowhere to be found.
Yeah.
Do you think was that foreshadowing the earnings report that we were about to get from Intel?
Well, it's not just them. I mean, NVIDIA wasn't there. A lot of them weren't there, right? Yeah. I mean, and it's not a secret that that the semi companies are facing some challenges, especially on the client computing side of things, right? So the PC, now more recently with the smartphones. I mean, that's been going on for like 2 quarters now at least.
We saw this bump. COVID was such an interesting petri dish of things in the world. It really was, because a whole lot of other things happened as a result of being locked down. And it was a great time to experiment. What would life be like in the Matrix, or not going places? And when COVID started, we locked down. Remember, the stock market crashed and it was horrible. And I thought it was just going to keep going down. And then it kind of recovered. And then all of a sudden, there was this boom in tech. And with all the semiconductor guys, all of a sudden, Windows was selling like hotcakes again. PCs were selling like hotcakes again. Like, because they always talk about when I say PC, what they usually mean is the desktop PC.
Yeah.
Most people don't use those anymore. They have a laptop or something. Yeah. And that formerly dead market was resurrected during COVID, because all of a sudden everyone's working from home. They're building out these cool home offices, and they're getting a super powered PC that maybe has the neon lights in it, and it's liquid cooled with nitrogen and stuff like that for gamers, right? Because you want your amped up. Anyway, so what did all the tech companies do? They hired like crazy. They hired an extra 30, 40, 50,000 employees during COVID, going bananas. And now that it's kind of over, all of a sudden there's this hangover and a crash. And so we're seeing mass layoffs from the software companies. We're seeing the worst earning reports ever from Intel. Amazon reported today or yesterday, like the first time they've lost money in I can't tell you how long. Google lost money. I mean, it's just like, wow. Anyway, this is all based on human behavior, and not necessarily natural-ish human behavior. It was just because we were forced into a situation, right?
Oh yeah, it's there's shock related to crisis, and then it just throws, like, you bring it up all the time. This whole just-in-time, the just-in-time systems just didn't adjust, and then we're still trying to figure out the rhythm, because we keep we're still off time. It's like music. Yeah. Everything is like music, except sometimes when Mozart, and then somebody busts in and starts playing Metallica and completely throws you off your groove, right? It takes a little bit of time to figure out, okay, what's the tempo, and then how do we lock in and then start grooving again? And we're still way off, I'm telling you.
How do you think Mozart felt when the Sandman entered his room? I'm coming for you.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, but it's true.
But in 1985, Austrian rock star Falco brought us "Rock Me Amadeus," so we brought it all the way back.
Genius.
So there you go, folks. Yeah. So we got that for him. Also, the audio video doesn't sync very well sometimes. Like now, there's that. Craziness.
Yeah, and what I also realize is that the internet actually kind of sucks. I've been watching. They have a lot of broadcast issues, and I think if the operators are looking for the next big opportunity, it's really broadcast, and it's actually part of a paper that I wrote. It's a white paper that I wrote like a year and a half, almost 2 years ago, about 5G applications and XYZ that will
fixed wireless access.
Yeah, fixed wireless access. You're seeing evidence that this actually could be a very valuable thing that would have a huge impact on the user experience. Like this one, this user experience is probably sucking for a lot of the viewers. I know it sucks for me, because you get cut off all the time. But anyway, hey, so the other takeaway that we talked about was cross-device platform, cross-device, cross-platform interoperability, right? And so one of the things we talked about was Matter, right?
Yeah.
And our friend Bill Pugh famously stated, "Matter won't matter."
I bet Stacey Higginbotham's got a few words for him, because I know she's all about the Matter. She's obviously the biggest superstar in IoT, and so she loves Matter. That was a Zigbee thing, and it got a bunch of people together to coalesce so that because you talked about these walled gardens and all these ecosystems. We talk often about like the Apple walled garden and everybody else's, but there's this in-home, smart home IoT-ish deal where gardens were created. Actually, remember who was the earliest and I'd say early leader in smart home and creating walled garden? It was actually Samsung with SmartThings. And so you had the whole SmartThings ecosystem. Because remember, Samsung doesn't just make phones. They make refrigerators. They make washers and dryers and ovens and things. And so they had a great way to make smart, all kinds of things, big appliances, smart. Whereas other players can just talk about it. But Samsung actually makes like everything.
Here, I'm going to blow your mind. I'm going to blow. Also makes homes. They have a thing called Samsung Construction, and they build.
Yes.
So if you've never been to Korea, you don't know this. And
you should go to Korea.
If you've been to the Middle East, you will know, because Samsung's construction has pretty much built a lot of the mega projects in the Middle East for decades.
Yes.
There's a lot of things that people don't know about South Korea.
That's true.
And the big conglomerates like
like Hyundai.
Hyundai, and they were one of my picks actually. They do some crazy stuff, and I recently had a conversation with a friend of mine about Hyundai Heavy Industries. And for a lot of folks who might not know this, but South Korea is still one of the largest, if not the largest, shipbuilding country in the world. And they have some of the biggest ports. They make all these big oil rigs, offshore oil rigs. And anyways, that's not where. But hey, industries, because your big pick was the John Deere thing, right? With the friggin' and which is really cool, right? But it's not really a consumer thing. So I kind of broke the rules on the criteria for selecting your top pick. And I said, okay, if John Deere is going to come in and try to make themselves look like a tech company, well, here, I'm going to give one of my picks to Hyundai, because they actually came up with this really novel, it's like a hybrid, think of it as a hybrid system for large vessels. And if we think about like decarbonization and net zero and all this stuff, one of the biggest polluters in the universe are like cargo ships. I don't know if you've ever been on a deck of a cargo ship, but don't stand behind the smokestack. You're gonna choke.
Right. Hey, I just want to show people though where John Deere is. They're in a little small town called Moline, Illinois. You can see Chicago over there. You can see Minneapolis. I just want to say, everyone who thinks that all the smartest people are in Silicon Valley or in Seattle or something like that, or Redmond, they got nothing on Moline, Illinois. In fact, just broadly, I want to just say, a lot of you kind of know this. There's smart people everywhere. And when I saw the tech that they were putting in their giant sprayers, where it's got 36 cameras using computer vision, really good edge computing use case, because they can't count on connectivity on a farm, right? It's always hit or miss. And so all the computes there, 36 cameras, computer vision. And I talk a lot about precision agriculture and how we can use IoT to do precise agriculture, because we need to conserve water and fertilizer and things like that, right? And their thing is shooting, like planting the seeds. It shoots the seed in, and immediately with computer vision puts the right amount of what they kind of like call kickstart fertilizer just to get it going. and it's super, super, super precise. It's great to see applied technology like that. There's a lot of tech companies on the West Coast that kind of build you these tool sets and all these things. It's great to see them apply advanced technology in ways that consumers don't typically see, right? And so normally at CES, you wouldn't see like that. You probably didn't expect John Deere to be the keynote address for it. You know, it used to be Bill Gates or the guy from Qualcomm or whatever. So anyway, props to John Deere. I know you're getting a lot of heat because of right to repair. I get it. Farmers are not loving that.
Yeah.
But you're also coming up with some great tech. All you people who got laid off from Microsoft and Google and Amazon and everywhere else, there are opportunities for you in other parts of the country in non-tech companies that will blow your mind. Think about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, so the other thing we talked about on the interoperability. Oh, are we jumping back? Yeah, jumping back to interoperability.
Interoperability, sharing.
Yeah, Lenovo, right?
Yeah.
Think I thought was stuff, right? They had their VRX headset. I mean, it's still a prototype, but it's a really nice looking device. I had a chance to try it on. It was pretty comfortable. Looking forward to demoing it again at some point when it's more production ready. What was that? They had the X1 Fold, which really astonished me because it's a foldable, what do you call it? Tablet that folds out to a 16-inch screen. But the thing that trips you out is there's no crease. Think about that.
No way.
No.
Wow.
I know. No crease. And I was like looking at it, you know, I tried to shift the angles to see whether or not you see that crease, because you know on the smartphones you see the creases, right? And
yes,
it bugs me to no end.
Yeah, like the Samsung
Fold, everybody has one.
Makes you see the crease.
You don't really see it. It's like, well, you know, it's still, you can feel it, and it's annoying. No crease. And they came out with a special technique for making it like that, and the way that the hinge works, and then it also kind of stretches the screen a bit so that you don't get that crease. But the coolest thing was the think to think function, which basically enables a think phone, which was newly announced by the Motorola team, to basically share files, have sort of this seamless interaction workflow with a ThinkPad or any other PC or Windows device in the ThinkPad portfolio. And for creators, for a lot of us who are producers of content, or we use the computer for, or laptops, et cetera, for productivity. I mean, that's like hugely valuable, right? And it's like, I think that was probably the coolest thing, most important thing, because as we talked about in the previous rant that we did, that's the biggest problem in the non-app to deliver these seamless experiences, workflows, and integrations at the UX level is a huge differentiator for brands like Lenovo. And then, at Galaxy Unpacked, Samsung has a similar capability. And these two brands are unique, sort of, if you think about it, uniquely positioned. They're not the only ones, but they have the most elegant solutions I've seen so far. But, they have the mobile device as well as the PC. And so as a brand, they are able to bring that stuff to the table, because if they didn't do this, they would have to deal with all that fragmentation underneath, right? Because you have Intel that has their stuff, and you have Microsoft that's trying to do their stuff linked to PC or linked to Windows. And it's just such a fragmented set of stuff underneath. And then you have the multiple logins. So if you want to sit there and have these seamless experiences, you have to go and have a Windows login plus let's say a Lenovo or a Samsung or a Xiaomi login. And then you have to have a Google login and all that just to have what Apple can deliver with one account login.
Yeah, true. You're right.
So, but that's the ironic thing, right? It's you're seeing certain brands having that are positioned this way, sort of creating their own little mini walled garden in order to deal with the big walled garden problem between Microsoft and Google. So
yeah, I certainly remember when I was working on Windows Phone, we were trying to do the same thing. We had the same Microsoft login for Windows and for Windows Phone and things like that, and the cloud. The phone didn't make it though. Wah, wah.
But you know what I'm saying? From a user experience perspective, which is what most people really, whether they know it or not, tune into and actually impacts their buying decision and their perception of the brand. I mean, this stuff is super important, and
not to put you on the spot right now, but I'm going to put you on the spot. You've gotten to personally up close compare the new ThinkPad phone, Think phone, whatever, and the new Galaxy Ultra 23. What do you think?
Geez,
I wasn't going to tell me to say what's better, but
yeah. I mean, so I'll tell you this: the build quality it has gotten so good with premium. It's just hard to, it just boils down to, well, what's your personal preference, right? And there's a lot of variety. The thing I like about the ThinkPad brand is that it's got sort of that Terminator feel to it. It's like super cool, right? It's black and it has that little red thing.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, or that little the track nubbin thing.
Yes, I'm a fan of that. Software matters, folks.
Oh yeah. Well, software matters, but I mean, hardware matters too. But yes. It all matters. The system matters. Is the way you have to look at it. But no, they're great phones,
folks. Software and hardware and technical debt and staying up to date actually matters. And when a company decides to blow off that critical aspect of their technology for decades, and then things just melt down, you have look in the mirror.
Yeah, I mean, is that the case? Is that what happened?
Yeah, it is. Oh. Absolutely. Right. Yeah, it all boils down to technical debt and band-aids on old software and old hardware, trying to hold the thing together, and management not wanting to spend money on fixing that stuff. Boy, I saw that in my time at Microsoft, talking to customers, enterprise customers. That was one of my big takeaways from my time at Microsoft was most companies will bend over backwards and do whatever it takes to have old systems just keep running.
Yeah.
We tried so hard to get companies to modernize their software and hardware and their networks.
It's tough.
And it was an uphill battle. A lot of CTOs and CIOs.
There's still a lot of that mentality there. But yeah, I mean, it's like they say, you have to prioritize your investments in modernization too. So what else? Yeah, so we talked about big semiconductor brands not making much of a show. That was interesting. Lisa
AWS had a booth, a room you walked in. Did you see that?
Yeah,
that was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Did you see the little robot with the big eyes?
Yeah.
You would ask it a question, and like 30 seconds later, it would give you an answer.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what happens when you rely on your cloud for the generative AI. But that stuff. I mean, speaking of generative AI, I guess we'll skip to the last bit. I mean, a lot of it is. Here's the thing: it's like generative AI is not a new thing, right? And there's like, let's say, certain classes of it. The big deal about generative AI right now with ChatGPT. It's an application that was already there. It's just somebody decided, hey, we're going to make it public, and then people started screwing around with it, and they found out, oh, it does like a couple of cool little things here and there, and then it's being sensationalized by certain exceptional, let's say, examples of where it got lucky and created something really cool. But for the folks who've actually spend some time with it, yes, it'll do certain cool things. And then it also generates a lot of nonsensical stuff, right? Stuff that's actually not useful. And even in a productive application, let's say that for productivity, it'll create something that actually may create more work to undo if you actually trust the output. And so I think, you and I saw a lot of that stuff over at Eureka Park, right? A lot of was trying to capitalize on the hype that is generative AI. But it all ended up being like kind of parlor tricks, right? Yeah, sure. You can put like a little NLP voice recognition thing that does a translation, issues a query to Chat GPT, and then it'll voice generate the response. I mean, that's
No, I read that Microsoft's going to have a premium version of Teams that'll have basically this Chat GPT stuff in it, so that you can go to a meeting and you don't even have to be there. It'll just listen to the conversation and answer questions like it's you, and you're just sitting there going, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we'll really find out. I mean, does it create problems? Because it's not perfect, right? And for scheduling your schedule, especially if you're a busy person, is a very precise thing.
Absolutely. You and I love to bring up the fact that Microsoft tried this several years ago on Twitter with Tay.
Yeah.
She did the same thing. She absorbed everything on the internet, and they set her loose on Twitter with no guardrails. And she went from being this friendly person who's answering simple questions.
Yeah.
And then what 24 or 36 hours, she became Hitler.
Yes.
And she absorbed the internet, and which is sad because it turned her into a monster, which tells you a lot about the internet and what's on there and humanity, which really sucks.
Yeah.
And Chat GPT is doing the same stuff. It's absorbing the whole world, the internet, and giving you answers based on what it knows.
Yeah.
And we talked about this, there's always going to be biases.
Yeah, exactly. What I've been telling folks is as they look at for different types of monetization models, there's going to become a commercial bias. So it's going to become biased based on what makes the most money. Yeah, and if you know how these ad engines operate, and you look at how they weigh certain types of content, it can go south pretty quick. So, I mean, those are the things. I mean, we've seen this happen over and over again, actually, in the history of the interwebs. And it'll just happen again. It's like what we were saying before in the last session. I mean, we go through this hump of nonsense constantly, and I did the session with Jeffrey Funk, Dr. Jeffrey Funk. So those of you who don't know who he is, look him up. He's really insightful. What we talked about was this, is that usually at the very beginning of the hump of nonsense, or what you call the hype cycle, you have folks that go around who actually don't know the technology, opining and evangelizing all the wonderful impacts that can have. But oftentimes what happens is you see this nonsense build up, and where the learning happens about the technology is as the expectations that have been set disappoint you. So the technology is disappoint your expectations of the technology disappoint you, and that's how you learn. And as you come down to the trough of disillusionment, disbelief, basically, because you're so disappointed by how exaggerated the expectations were, that's where you actually learn what the technology can do. And it's usually much less than where you started from, and certainly a lot less than at the peak of the hump of nonsense. So that is where we're going to go with Chat GPT, almost inevitably, if not definitely. And this is not the first hump that this technology has gone through. This is like 3 or 4.
Right.
What is the novelty is that someone just decided to let the beast out of the cage is really what it boils down to, and said,
you're
hey,
so right.
go with this stuff.
It's crazy now. It's crazy town. Yeah. It's like Tay. Yeah.
So that's, one of the key takes for 2023 is that we're going to see a continual,
we'll
trend
see more of that.
Parlor tricks.
Will the sun set? Will the sun set on humanity by the end of 2023 as we see the rise of AI? Or is this a bump in the road? A lot of people, because you're right, a lot of people are exaggerating what it can do. A whole lot of people are freaked out about what they see. A whole lot of companies are saying we can replace lots of employees with Chat GPT.
But that's all part of it. Yeah, but that's
so there's a lot of fear.
Yeah, but then also the fear is over exaggerated because the fear is based on a misunderstanding of the technology, right? And so that's the ironic thing, is that if you do understand the technology, you're basically telling 99% of the people who are freaking out one way or the other, this is all nonsense. That's not where the technology is right now. But that doesn't mean that there can't be misuses of technologies that are not capable of doing anything close to what anyone believes that it can do or will be able to do. And that's the ironic thing. But
do you remember a few years ago there was
we saw out of CES 2023, I think.
All right.
I cut out, huh?
It's okay. It's okay. Do you remember a few years ago a Japanese financial firm laid off a bunch of their analysts or traders, saying they were going to replace them by AI?
No.
I remember that, and I don't know how it worked out for them, or if it was overblown or whatever. But that was the first inkling, because manual labor jobs get replaced by automation and robots and factories and stuff like that. And then you've got a bunch of white collar workers, knowledge workers thinking they're safe.
Yeah.
But maybe they're not safe.
It depends on the task, right?
Yeah.
If it's like one of the things that Dr. Funk and I talked about was, publishing of articles. It's just, you take out the middleman instead of having a journalist in the middle. Just you get rid of the journalists and just go straight with the press release. So the journalists and the folks who create articles of that nature, which is very low value stuff, those are gone. I mean,
it was interesting. I read
that and then attach the outlet's brand to it. I mean, that's easy.
I read something yesterday. I read the actual blurb. A U.S. either Congress person or senator wrote a proclamation to put an idea for a bill on the floor of the House or Senate to go into this Chat GPT and use it. The whole thing that he wrote, the whole proclamation, everything was totally 100% created by Chat GPT, and he used that as to put this bill on the floor. And it had all the right wording. It had all the BS way they talk over there in the Congress. This shall be blah blah blah, and therefore, it's some of it's kind of terrifying. Some of it's generic. It'll be interesting. We'll have to have Sam. We'll have to have Sam Altman on Coffee Talk.
Yeah, we should.
And go right to the source.
And we caveat this by saying there will be valuable applications. It's usually going to be not what people think.
Yeah.
I'm just highlighting the what I call the detrimental hype aspect, but there's definitely valuable applications. It's just that we will, a lot of folks are going to be blinded or won't be able to see them because they're subscribing to other stuff that the technology just doesn't do well.
Right.
Yeah, what else did we talk about? Okay, automotive. Obviously, everybody kept talking about that. My tagline is this: automotive hits puberty, and yeah, there's a lot of great stuff there.
There was a lot of Snapdragons everywhere in cars. Bosch showed off stuff. Sony had their car with Honda. Qualcomm was showing stuff.
Yeah, their whole digital chassis thing. You had BlackBerry, if they're still called BlackBerry. Yeah, they were. I mean, they were. I mean, Mobileye. They were all there.
Yeah.
NXP. You know, the thing is, the impression I get is this: is that having hung out with a bunch of the silicon players, number one, it's a pretty crowded field already. They're coming at the future architecture from different angles. This is gonna be a friggin' fight, man.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's gonna be a fight. So while sure, the market, let's see how much additional value digital can actually pump into this thing beyond the conventional. But there's already a lot of incumbent players. They have their game, they have their angle,
right.
And so it's going to be a fight. It's not going to be easy. It's going to get pretty brutal, I think, in the next 2-3 years. And this whole software-defined vehicle stuff, it has not gelled at all. I mean, it's in fact sort of still an aspirational thing.
Yeah, right.
But then it's gonna be afflicted with all the stuff that we've already seen with any kind of open initiative or attempt to create a standard.
Totally. You're so right.
Yeah,
exactly. So, just like Open RAN.
Yeah, exactly. Just like Open RAN, all the other open initiatives. So, hey, we actually got like a comment here by Jignesh Sarathia. I think that's how you pronounce his name. How about FWA with an on-demand dynamic queue configuration or capability? Well, that sounds kind of cool.
Yes, absolutely. Fixed wireless access with dynamic QoS.
Yeah.
Quality of service. Turn a knob. Push a button that says, I'm going to push a button and I will be charged to build an extra $5 to have faster speed for the next 5 minutes or an hour or whatever it is.
Well, yeah. I mean, the question is where, on the CPE or on the network?
All that. Yeah. Most of that stuff's built into the network. All that's doable. That's kind of the big thing about
maybe network slicing, and eventually when everyone transitions to SA. I mean, it could be a new. The thing is I think there's a lot that can happen with FWA. A lot of benefit to bring to operators. And the key thing is that everyone's so fixated on, new revenue, obviously, that's great. And our buddy Anthony Very, he commented on one of my thingies, and he listed 2 things. I forgot what the second thing is. But the other thing to think about is that all the other the fact that the infrastructure can now be multi-purpose, right? It's not just for mobile connectivity, it's also for fixed wireless. And that creates a ability set that operators can then start to capitalize on to, actually extend the network, and maybe go, the whole digital divide issue, right? It changes the economics of actually investing in the network, right? Because now it's not just single purpose. There's 2 purposes. There's a mobile aspect and then a fixed aspect.
Yeah.
And
so maybe they'll finally be a serious competitor to the cable modem people, the fiber people, Yeah.
I mean, well, but even that aside, I mean, because, the operators have an issue themselves, right? They have the challenge of figuring out, well, if we're going to go outside of the profitability zones, the high profit zones that we have today, how do we get out into suburbia in these other areas where we perceive them not to be as profitable? Well, if FWA can change that equation and the assumptions about what profitable areas are, it changes the economics basically.
Yeah,
that's what can drive the expansion of the network. And maybe you start to go into places that you didn't think of going in before, because now you are sort of a fiber, or, like a replacement, right? And, fiber is not going to go everywhere. I mean, dude, if you're like freaking in the middle of nowhere, don't expect fiber to the home.
Right.
No one's going to.
It's not like we live in Singapore.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, you're going to probably still be stuck with Starlink. But if you're lucky and you have enough neighbors and somebody decides to trench some fiber over into somebody's home, you can split that out wirelessly. It's an option. It's a great option, right?
It is. But
I don't think it's a black and white thing, because I think there's a lot of folks who like to think about fixed wireless access as being either or vis-a-vis fiber. I think you should look at it that way.
There's a whole lot of people who got nothing. There's a whole lot of people, a lot of small towns in rural areas where sometimes the only internet access might be in the public library.
Yep.
And there's some places that have nothing. It's interesting. They may have dial-up modems still.
You know what? There's places, seriously, in
56K
San Diego, like we're talking about La Jolla, where in your apartment complex you have this DSL.
Woo! I remember DSL.
That's all you're going to get. No one's going to sit there and rewire or pipe in fiber. No, it's not going to, because then you have to redo the whole complex. So I mean, these are like some of the realities where people who assume that fiber is going to be everywhere. It's not. And you can have fixed wireless access as an option. Yeah, man, I would take it. My tenants.
Could we start an MVNO that provides fixed wireless access to people? I just made that up. I don't even know if that's a good idea.
Offline. And speaking of offline, we have to get offline because we are at the top we are past the top of the hour.
Woo! Yeah.
So yes, what we would like to do, I know, Rob, you probably share this sentiment. We would like to sincerely apologize to everyone because this didn't entirely work out. In fact, it was quite the disaster. But you have to love us for trying. And
we tried twice.
Yes. And to Ron, again, yes, we apologize on behalf of LinkedIn. And yes.
Yeah, we're sorry. We didn't show up for them
we
at all.
Tried.
We just,
they say
you would have been better off just listening through one of these from the airplane,
Yes.
Probably.
As they say, if once you don't, if you don't succeed the first time, just keep trying and annoying Ron.
Exactly.
Or at least
tried again, and who knows? Whew. But as they say in the Blues Brothers, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.
Yes. So remember to follow Next Curve at www.next-curve.com and follow Rob at Digital Insights at digitalinsights.ai, not .com, AI. And, I have an article out already on CES 2023. You can check it out. You might find it interesting. Of course.
And I have an article out from the World Economic Forum on IoT in 2022, actually, that just came out at Davos. And that's now I'll push it out there to get it out to people. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
I didn't write the whole thing. I was a contributor to it, but working with the WEF folks. So
I mean, like we're like freaking, some of the leading influencers on IoT, right? If you're not talking to us.
If we're at Davos, maybe.
What was that? I didn't see it.
If we're at Davos, that means we're it, right? Of course, there's a lot of people that are anti-Davos, I notice these days, so you got to watch out.
Yeah, and we know who they are.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, everyone. Well, thank you for tuning in, and we will see you next time. All right.
Yes, have a great weekend, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.